one we're looking at.
All set? You guys all good? Yeah, you guys ready? Everybody all set? All right, we're going to go ahead and call the September 27th, 2021 Morgan County Board of Zoning Appeals meeting to order. We do have a quorum this evening with all 5 members present. Mr. Rumball, would you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Yes. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Mr. Rumball. Can you guys hear me okay out there? All right, if not, you're welcome to come up and sit closer. We have a new member this evening. I'd like to introduce Gordon Crone. And this is Gordon's first meeting, and as such, Mr. Peden, would you swear Mr. Crone into the Board of Zoning Appeals?
I do. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, gentlemen. Copies of the minutes were sent out to all board members. Has everyone had a chance to review those? And if so, are there any changes, corrections, additions, or deletions need to be made to the minutes?
Fred can make it.
I'm sorry?
Only you and Fred can make it since you
Oh,
were two
well, that's true. Fred and I were the only ones here at the last meeting, pretty short meeting. You know what, I did. Would you like to make a motion to approve those minutes?
I will make a motion to approve them.
Thank you. I'll second that. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, thank you. A copy of the agenda was sent out to everyone as well in advance of the meeting. Are there any changes, corrections, additions, deletions to the agenda this evening? For a motion to approve the agenda?
Move to, go ahead. Yeah, move to approve the agenda as sent.
Thank you. Second? Thank you. All in favor, please raise your right hand. Say aye. Aye. The agenda is approved. We ask that the board's attorney, Mr. Peden, swear in everyone who's going to be speaking in front of the board this evening. Mr. Peden, if you could do so, please.
Indiana Supreme Court has said that this is a quasi-judicial proceeding, which means that your remarks to the board are essentially testimony. So if you will, take the oath as a witness if you expect to address the board. You and each of you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help me God.
Thank you, Mr. Peden. All right, I'm going to guess some of you have never been in here for one of these meetings before. So we've got an agenda that we're going to follow this evening, and by looking at the sign-in sheets, I see that the biggest group of people are here for Duckworth's application. And that is last, unfortunately, so. But we'll get through it one at a time. A couple things, just points of order. When I call you up to speak, please come up to the microphone. You're going to be addressing the board, not the audience. Start off by giving us your name and your address, and then tell us, if you're the applicant, in detail what it is that you want to do and why you need the board to grant the variance. If you're in support of that, tell us briefly why you're in support, and if you're in opposition, why you're in opposition to the application. All right, that being said, we'll go ahead and get started. Under old business this evening, our first item on the agenda is continued from July 26th, 2021. It was public hearing U-21-04. Dennis and Carrie Pennington are requesting a use variance for an accessory dwelling that already has been constructed. The property is located at 8890 North Pennington Road in Madison Township and is zoned R2. For this application, I have Dennis Hamilton signed up as the applicant, one other person, Mr. Pennington.
Good evening, my name is Dennis Pennington. I live at 8890 North Pennington Road. I am the applicant, and the purpose of our applying for the variance is we purchased a home that had a dwelling that had already been installed, but the septic permit was not legally put in. So we're applying to get the home compliant. We've applied for the permits, they've been granted, and so we're back again just trying to finalize everything.
Questions from the board members?
Has the septic permit been approved, the septic system, by the Board of Health?
Yes.
Do you have proof of that?
Yes.
Need it now? Huh? That was my question. That's all I had.
So the septic system is a whole separate issue. The reason you're here in front of us is you have one dwelling already on the property. You're asking for a second dwelling to be approved?
Correct.
Okay. Who's going to live in that second dwelling?
It's just a guest house. No one lives in it full time.
I'm sorry?
It's just a guest house.
Is it a residence that you're going to be renting out or putting on Airbnb or
No.
like rental?
Nope. If anybody moves into it, it'd be my 18-year-old daughter.
So it's not going to be rented to somebody other than a family member that may live in that dwelling?
That's correct.
Any other questions from board members?
I have none.
Thank you very much. Carrie Pennington, do you want to speak? If you want to speak, come to the microphone. If not, just say no thank you and we're good to go. All right. Thank you very much. Mr. Pennington, you can have a seat. I have no one signed up in opposition or as an interested party in this. We had 2 people in support of the petition, heard from the applicant. At this point, we'll close our public meeting, go into public hearing. This is an application for a use variance. In order for the board to grant this, we have to agree that the applicant meets, in this case, 5 findings of facts. The first being that the approval will not be injurious to the public health, safety, morals, and general welfare of the community because, and the applicant writes, it already exists and isn't harming anyone now. 2, the use and value of the area adjacent to the property included in the variance will not be affected in a substantially adverse manner because, and the applicant writes, the accessory unit will hold its value. Number 3, the need for the variance does arise from some condition peculiar to the property involved because, and the applicant writes, I cannot sell or refinance my home without this. Number 4, the strict application of the terms of the zoning ordinance will constitute an unnecessary hardship if applied to the property for which a variance is sought, because, and the applicant writes, I cannot sell or refinance my home without this. Number 5, the approval does not interfere with the adopted comprehensive plan because, and the applicant has written, the building is already existing. For technical reports on this application, the Health Department states that the septic permit 05-002 was issued for the accessory dwelling. This permit was never inspected or approved by the Health Department. An approved septic permit by the Health Department will be required in order to bring the property into compliance. For the staff report, their recommendation, they've written, accessory dwellings are not a permitted use in any district, which means a petitioner must seek a variance to establish the additional living quarters. In this case, the accessory dwelling unit was built illegally by a prior property owner, but that does not absolve the current property owner's responsibility to ensure that the property and structures are brought into compliance when a violation comes to light. In their findings of fact, the petitioner maintains that the living quarters already exist and isn't harming anyone now, but that may or may not be the case when it can't be confirmed that the septic was installed properly. Furthermore, staff does not believe the petitioner can successfully justify any of the findings of facts for the illegal use. However, staff does take a pragmatic position on accessory dwelling units as a whole and believes they should be an allowed accessory use with the proper permits and inspections from start to finish. If the petitioner can satisfy the requirements for a septic system as required by the Board of Health, then staff recommends approval of the request to bring the accessory dwelling unit into compliance. If, however, the petitioner is unable to satisfy the Board of Health septic requirements, then staff recommends denial of the petition and a 180-day time limit to remove the illegal dwelling unit and septic system. Discussion amongst the board.
I think if he has the proper septic and can prove it, I think we ought to approve it.
Does he have the proper septic permits now? Thank you. Other discussion?
This looks like it's awful close to the property line to my estimation, but I don't know how far it has to be away or anything.
It's my understanding that they're within compliance on that. Is that correct? Any other discussion?
No.
Jerry?
No.
No. I'd be in favor of this as long as, I think we'd want a condition that the accessory dwelling couldn't be rented to a non-family member for the duration of the property. If the board's so inclined. Any other discussion? Open for a motion.
I would move we approve -04 with the conditions that this is not to become a rental unit other than by family members. It will not be injurious for the reason stated in the petitioner's finding of facts. The use and value of the area adjacent to the property, including variance, will not be affected in a substantially adverse manner. The reason stated in the petitioner's finding of facts. The need for the variance does arise from some condition peculiar to the property involved, and the reason stated in the petitioner's finding of facts. 4, the terms of the zoning ordinance will constitute an unnecessary hardship applied to the property. The reason stated in the petitioner's finding of facts. Number 5, the approval will not interfere substantially with the comprehensive plan, reasons stated in petition finding of facts.
Thank you. I have a motion to approve with the condition attached. Do I have a second to that motion? Second. I do. Mr. Roberts. All in favor, please raise your right hand. Say aye. 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 It's approved. So thank you very much. You don't have to stay. You're more than welcome to if you'd like to. Our next item on the agenda was continued from our meeting on August 23rd, 2021. Public hearing U-21-08. Randall Cole is requesting a use variance to allow a second dwelling on one parcel. The property is located at 8705 Lazy Run Road in Green Township and is zoned for ag. Randall Cole. Oh,
Good evening, gentlemen. Randall Cole, I live at 8705 Lazy Run Road, Martinsville in Green Township. So we're petitioning the board to do a second dwelling on the same parcel of 35 acres. The house that is existing now was built in 1870, and that will become a guest house. And I'm retiring out of the Army very soon, so we're going to build our retirement home. We've got 3 kids and 8 grandkids and growing more, so the place we have is very small, so we're just petitioning to build the second dwelling.
Questions from the board?
It's 35 acres total?
35 acres, yes, sir. There's no road frontage to the property at all, so we can't really divide the property feasibly. And we've had several contractors look at the existing home, and every one of them says it's really not feasible to add on that house either. So we just like to make it a guest house, and it's not going to be a rental. It will just be basically for the kids to stay in when they come and others when they come. So you're all welcome. We love to have people over.
Going to be used just for guests, not
Yes.
for any
No, it's not a business.
profit-making
No, sir.
of any type?
No, sir.
How big a house you're building, the other house?
It'll be 3,000 to 4,000 square feet.
I don't see a layout in here where that house is proposed to be. Have you got a proposal for where that house is going to be at?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
I showed about 4
Okay,
pages
I'm
back,
sorry, I
Brad.
just had it now. It's too far back in.
East to west is pretty much centered. It's on the southern third of the property, but in that area, you can't see it from anything else.
Any other questions from the board members?
Sounds logical. Good for me.
Jerry, Gordon, any questions for the applicant?
No, I don't have any.
They're going to put another septic in for that too, right?
Yes, sir. We'll put an additional septic system in for the.
Any other questions?
I have none.
No? All right. Thank you very much, Mr. Cole. Michelle Cole? Thank you. Have anyone signed up in opposition to or as an interested party in this application? This is an application for a use variance. And in order for the board to grant this, again, we have to agree that the applicant has met 5 findings of facts. The first being that the approval will not be injurious to the public health, safety, morals, and general welfare of the community because, and the applicant writes, the improvements are for private residential use adhering to state and local ordinances, and will not be used for illegal or immoral activities that would cause concern or distress to the community. The property is intended to remain a private residence and the acreage used for agricultural/forest recreation. Number two, the use and value of the area adjacent to the property included in the variance will not be affected in a substantially adverse manner because, and the applicant writes, the parcel is more than sufficient in size to support 2 homes without causing any changes to the surrounding landowners' views or availability/access to natural resources or municipal utilities. Number three, the need for the variance does arise from some condition peculiar to the property involved because, and the applicant has written, the property has no county road frontage. Number four, the strict application of the terms of the zoning ordinance will constitute an unnecessary hardship if applied to the property for which the variance is sought because, and the applicant writes, it is not feasible to divide the property into separate parcels since the existing 35.31 parcel has no county road frontage. Number five, the approval does not interfere substantially with the adopted comprehensive plan because, and the applicant writes, the variance will be used for purposes consistent with residential and agricultural activities and improvements. For technical reports for this application, the health department states they have no objections to the proposed use variance. The surveyor made no comment, and we don't have anything from the county engineer for this application. For staff's recommendation, they have written 2 single-family dwellings on 1 parcel is not a permitted use in the ag district, which means the petitioner must seek a variance to establish a second dwelling. They did consider splitting the property, but it was not eligible for an exempt split because it has no county road frontage. They use this condition to support their justification for findings of facts number 3 and 4. Minor platting is an option, but the petitioner decided to seek a variance rather than splitting up the property. They would prefer to keep it intact. The parcel is quite large and somewhat remote, so the existence of a second dwelling unit will have little impact on the surrounding neighbors, particularly if the petitioner only intends to use it sparingly as a guest cottage. Therefore, staff is not opposed to the petitioner's use variance to allow a second dwelling on 1 parcel. Discussion amongst the board.
I'm done. I don't see anything wrong with it.
I don't think they could hear you.
I don't see anything that would give me any opposition to it.
Me either.
Gary, any comments?
No, just a nice isolated area.
Gordon, any comments?
No, sir.
Yeah, that's back there. I thought at some point driving back to look at that, you'd meet me out there with a mule or something to get back the rest of the way. It is back there in the woods. And the applicant has stated that he has no intention of renting this out. I would, again, suggest we put a condition on the approval of the board, so move to approve this, that it not be rented out or used as an Airbnb, since it is a special exception that we're granting here if we do approve it. Any other thoughts, comments?
No.
No? Open for a motion?
I move that we approve U-21-08. Allow the variance to be to construct a second dwelling located at 8705 Lazy Run Road, Green Township. The reason is as follows. The approval will not be injurious to the public health or safety or morals of the general welfare of the community. Based on the reasons the petitioner's finding the facts and stated in the staff report. Number two, the use of the value of the area adjacent to the property included in the variance will not be affected in a substantially adverse manner because of the reasons and the finding of the facts and the staff report. The need for a variance does arise from the conditions peculiar to the property involved because of the reason of the finding the facts, and then the staff report. And strict application of the terms of zoning ordinance will constitute an unnecessary hardship if the property and the variance is sought after is not approved. Based on the finding the facts in the staff report. The approval will not interfere substantially with the comprehensive plan due to its location and its area, due to the reasons stated of finding the facts and the reasons stated in the staff report. One exception we'd like to add to this motion is this house in no way will be used as a rental home or any means of financial gain for the use of the house.
Thank you. I have a motion to approve with a condition. Do I have a second to that motion?
I'll second it.
Mr. McGrath, thank you. All in favor, please raise your right hand, say aye. Aye. It is approved. Thank you, Mr. Cole. You're welcome to stay. You don't have to. Thank you for your service to our country. We appreciate it. All right, our next item on the agenda under old business is, again, continued from August 23rd, 2021. It's public hearing D-21-08. Matthew Spence is requesting a development standard variance to reduce the side yard setback for a primary residence from 15 feet to 6 feet. The property is located at 0 East Stafford Place in Washington Township and is zoned R2. For this application, I have Matthew Spence, the applicant, signed up to speak, and I have no one in opposition or no one is an interested party. Matthew Spence.
Thank you very much. Matthew Spence, 1505 East Foxcliff Drive South currently. We set out and designed a new primary residence for a lot in Foxcliff on the Ball Diamond, or just north of the Ball Diamond. And the Foxcliff building covenants stated that side yard setbacks should not exceed 5 feet. And we worked under the assumption that we were in compliance as we designed the residence, the side load garage, and the general layout of the home. And then upon further investigation with Ross and others, we determined that the residential code indicates it should be 15 feet side yard setback. And thus, here we stand today. I just want to emphasize that we considered altering the plan to meet the code, and it was injurious to both our pricing and other things in this time of increased cost. So thank you for your time.
Thank you. Questions from the board members?
No, seeing that he has everything with Foxcliff here, it seems like it's basically pre-approved by them. I see no problems.
Any other questions?
What size dwelling you putting in there?
I'm sorry.
What size building are you putting in there?
The finished living square footage will be approximately 6,300 square feet.
6,300.
Any other questions from the board members?
No, I don't have anything.
No? Thank you. Okay, this is a petition for a development standard variance, and in order for the board to grant this, we have to agree that the applicant has met three findings of facts. The first being that the approval will not be injurious to the public health, safety, morals, and general welfare of the community because, and the applicant writes, it is residential. Number two, the use and value of the area adjacent to the property included in the variance will not be affected in a substantially adverse manner because, and the applicant writes, the covenants of the subdivision allow 5 feet setbacks. The subdivision building committee has approved the plan. Number three, the strict application of the terms in the zoning ordinance will constitute an unnecessary hardship if applied to the property for which the variance is sought because, and the applicant writes, the plan for side load garage and home has been designed specifically. Any alterations lead to new pricing and design. For the technical reports on this application, the surveyor makes no comment. Health Department states that they have no objections to the proposed variance. And staff's recommendation is, they've written, setbacks are intended to create open space and separation between structures that are appropriate for that particular zoning district. The majority of the existing homes in the subdivision would not comply with the county's 15-foot setback requirement, so approving this reduced setback would not be out of character for the neighborhood. Furthermore, the side of the house with the reduced setback is adjacent to recreational open space owned by the Foxcliff HOA. For these reasons, staff is not opposed to this request. Open for discussion?
I see nothing wrong with this request.
As the staff report said, in that area there's quite a few places that's not within the 15-foot code.
Yeah, I know we've done several of these out here in Foxcliff over the years and have never had, that I'm aware of, any kind of pushback or negative comments from the public or anybody claiming that it's injured their property or reduced their property values. I think this would be, would fall in that same category. Any other discussion? I'll open for a motion.
Move that we approve the request made by Matthew Spence in petition D 21-08 for a development standard variance for a reduced side set yard of 6 feet for the house to be constructed on lot 440, Foxcliff, Martinsville, Indiana. Motion is made with the reasons stated and finding the facts. The approval will not be injurious to the public health, safety, and morals and general welfare of the community because the reasons stated in the petitioner's finding the facts. Number two, the use and value of the area adjacent to the property, including the variance, will not be affected in a substantially adverse manner because the reasons stated in the petitioner's finding the facts. And number three, the strict application of the terms of the ordinance will result in a practical difficulties for the use of the property because the reasons stated in the petitioner's finding the facts.
Thank you. I have a motion to approve with no conditions. Do I have a second to that motion? I have a second from Mr. Roberts. All in favor, please raise your right hand. Say aye. Aye. It's approved. Thank you. Am I doing all right? All good? Our next item on the agenda is under new business. It's public hearing D-21-09, Dante and Mary. Raj, thank you very much for that. I appreciate that. I would have gotten that wrong, and I still will before you're done here. are requesting a development standard variance to build a primary dwelling across property lines. The property is located at 0 Rembrandt Drive in Jackson Township and is zoned R4. For this application, I have Dante, Diana, and Mary Raggio all signed up to speak. Who would like to address the board?
I will.
Thank you, ma'am. You can have a seat. Thank you. And your name is?
Dante Raggio.
And your address is?
Our residence will be at 0 Rembrandt Drive in Painted Hills.
And can you explain to the board what you're wanting to do and why the board should approve your request?
I sure will. We're requesting a variance to build a single-family residence across our lot line parcels. The topography of the lots limits the available and acceptable area to build the proposed home and the approved septic location. We think the proposed residence will add value to the vacant lots and will be built in accordance with the requirements of the city, county, and the Painted Hills HOA.
Thank you. Questions from the board?
Got all the permits from
How big of a dwelling are you putting in there?
about 3,500 square feet.
Go ahead, Bill.
You've got all the permits from Painted Hills?
Correct.
Thank you.
I have one question.
Go ahead.
On the deck that shows just 11 feet from the property line on either side,
Correct.
is there enough room to get your boat back in there, or somebody put in
we
your
bring-
septic and all that?
We have the septic plot or field plotted, and that's been approved by the county health commissioner. Any boats would be brought in by water from the boat ramp over on the big lake, and then just brought over to a dock that we already have on the property.
So anything bigger than 11 feet shouldn't need to be in the backyard, is what you're saying, basically?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
That was my question.
Okay, very good.
Okay.
Are all the homes out there still on septic systems?
The best of my knowledge, yes, and we will be too.
That's a pretty good drop off there as well, isn't it, going over that to your property?
You mean the slope of the property? Yeah, it sure is. And that's one of the challenges of building. I think we included the topo map in our documents here, so you can see the steepness of the terrain, but also the kind of the pie-shaped nature of our lot limits where we can put a house and make everything work. So we own two lots. They're fairly narrow lots. They're adjoining. What we're asking the variance for is to straddle the lot lines with the house.
And you live in Muncie now?
Correct.
Is this going to be your primary residence or?
Eventually.
Summer home?
Eventually be primary residence.
If you're not at the podium, you don't get to speak. I'll call you up to speak if you signed in, but until that time, if you could hold your comments, we appreciate it. Okay. Any other questions from the board members?
I have none.
Nope, it's common operation for.
Yeah. Okay, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
All right, now, is it Mary? Are you Diana?
Hi, I just wanted to say I'm support.
What's
Sorry.
your name and what's your address, please?
Diana Raggio, 2610 North College. I live in Indianapolis.
Thank you.
I just wanted to share my support for their application for the zoning variance. This will become their primary residence. They do need to build it first, and I'm here representing their children. My husband is currently deployed, otherwise he would be here himself. They have owned this property for almost a decade and are finally ready to build, and we all look forward to having this as their family home that we can come spend time at.
So you're their daughter-in-law?
Yes.
Okay. And you want this to be approved so you can use the house as well?
Yes.
Yeah, that's okay.
Yes, that is part of it.
Okay, all right, fair enough.
But this has been their dream home, and my mother-in-law did design the home, and they've designed it so that they can age in the home and spend the rest of their life there together.
Any questions from the board members?
No,
Thank you.
Okay, so I still have Mary? Did you want to speak, Mary? You were talking a minute ago. I'm just giving you an opportunity. Thank you. All right. This is an application for a development standard variance. In order for the board to grant this, again, we have to agree that the applicant meets 3 findings of facts. The first being that the approval will not be injurious to the public health, safety, morals, and general welfare of the community because, and the applicant has written, this will be a single-family residence built according to the restrictions and requirements for Painted Hills. And number 2, the use and value of the area adjacent to the property included in the variance will not be affected in a substantially adverse manner because, and the applicant writes, new residents that will add value to the existing vacant land. And number 3, the strict application of the terms of the zoning ordinance will result in practical difficulties in the use of the property because, and the applicant has written, the size of the home and the site topography limits the available land acceptable to the construction of the home. For technical reports on this application, the surveyor makes no comment. Health Department states they have no objection to the proposed development standard variance. For staff's recommendation, they've written the property's terrain and narrow lot widths creates practical difficulties in positioning the house and septic as stated in the petitioner's finding of fact number 3. As stated above, building across lot lines is not uncommon in this subdivision, and because the petitioners satisfy the findings of fact, staff is not opposed to the variance request to build a residence that crosses the property line between lots 1090 and 1091. Open for discussion.
Seems a logical thing to approve.
Well, kind of like going back to the last one, we've had probably more even down at Painted Hills and with the topography of the land and that, it seems like it's almost a necessity to have the 2 lots to get the septic system and a home in on the space. I wouldn't be opposed to this.
I don't think the lots were designed for anything more than a cabin to begin
Right.
with, and there's just no feasible way to get a dwelling in there and still meet all the requirements of the county and the state of approving without this.
I agree. Any other discussion, comments? Open for a motion.
Move we approve request number petition D-2109 for development standard variance of the house constructed across lot lines of 1090 and 1091, Rembrandt Drive and Painted Hill subdivision. Motion is made to approve on the following reasons. The approval will not be injurious to the public health, safety, and morals of the general welfare of the community because of the reasons stated in the petition of the petitioner's finding the facts and the staff report that was filed. The use and the value of the adjacent property included in the variance will not be affected substantially and in an adverse way because of the petition's finding of the facts as stated in the staff report and the reasoning of the fact. The strict application of the terms of the zoning ordinance will result in a practical difficulty to the use of the property by the finding of the facts in the staff report, the general use of the land.
Thank you. I have a motion to approve. Do I have a second for that motion?
I'll second it.
Second from Mr. Crone. All in favor, please raise your right hand and say aye. Aye. It's approved. Welcome to Morgan County, folks. We should have asked, you're not charging that young lady rent while she's down there staying with you guys, are you? Okay. All right, we should have clarified that. You guys doing good? All right.
Thank you.
Our next item on the agenda this evening is public hearing D-21-10. Johnny and Kathy Lee are requesting a development standard variance to reduce the minimum square footage for a primary dwelling from 950 square feet to 697 square feet. The property is located at 3493 West State Road 142 in Gregg Township and is zoned R2. For this application this evening, I have Johnny and Kathy Lee signed up in support, as well as one other person, and no one signed up as a person of interest or in objection to this. Johnny Lee.
Evening. My name's Johnny Lee. We're requesting for the variance for a single dwelling, single bedroom. It's pretty already been explained. It's at 3493 West State Road 142.
Anything else you'd like to tell the board?
It's pretty much there. It's just the building that we've already seen to purchase, which I hope I can still buy now. That I don't know if they've sold it yet for certain, but it's just smaller than your square footage that you have required. Looking for it to be a retirement place after we retire. I'll be ready to downsize when that happens.
Is this going to be the only residence on that property?
Yes, that'll be the only residence on the property.
So right now, there's nothing on that, no improvements
Correct.
on that.
There's not, well, water, electric, and all that is already there. Septic has already been approved. I have a letter from the Board of Health approving that. But the original, it originally had a 3-bedroom trailer on there, and that's no longer there.
Are you going to build, we've got a diagram in our application here that is outlined in blue. I don't know if you've seen this or not.
I think that's the topical picture.
Yeah. Satellite picture of the
Yeah,
the parcel.
satellite picture of the property.
How far back off of State Road 142 are you going to construct this home?
It was well past the required, I think it's like 75 feet.
But you're going to build it up more towards 142 than the back of the property?
In that first small square there, you see the house to the east of the property. It'll be kind of parallel. There's inside that area, there's a black circled area that says site. That
See
will
that?
be the location for the home.
Okay, all right.
I believe it's 25 feet or a little more on each side, and about approximately 75 from the road.
And then you've got also in your application a color photo of what looks like.
Of the dwelling that we was looking at putting there. Yeah.
that says the Clarks in front of it?
Yeah.
That's what
Yeah,
you're,
that is a prefab log cabin home that was built by the Amish.
but this is what you're looking at putting in? Something
Yes.
similar to this?
Yes, sir.
Not a mobile or modular home?
No. Not at this time. Of course, best laid plans of men and mice might change.
Well, you're asking for a variance, and they have that rule or ordinance in for a reason, and
Well, the home that we would be putting in, I believe, would be an improvement for the trailer that's right there beside us. And I believe it's way under 950 square feet also, but it was grandfathered in.
yeah,
It's put in.
those we don't have any
Yeah.
authority with. Any other questions from the board members?
No, it's gonna be an improvement, in my opinion.
And you don't own that parcel to the east of you then?
No,
Okay.
Refresh my memory on this. How big a parcel of land is this?
2 acres.
2 acres?
Yes, sir.
You think you'd be able to live in that indefinitely on 697 square feet?
Oh, yes. Yeah.
That's all I have.
Any other questions from board members?
I have none.
No. Thank you. Kathy, Lee? Sharon, is it Heggie? If you want to speak, you don't have to, but you signed up to. I'm sorry? Okay. All right, this is a petition for a development standard variance. Again, we have to agree that the applicant meets 3 findings of facts. The first being that the approval will not be injurious to the public health, safety, morals, and general welfare of the community because, and the applicant has written, it is a personal home. Number 2, the use and value of the area adjacent to the property included in the variance will not be affected in a substantially adverse manner because, and the applicant has written, the new home will be an improvement to the property value. Number 3, the strict application of the terms of the zoning ordinance will constitute an unnecessary hardship if applied to the property for which the variance is sought because, and the applicant writes, downsizing for retirement, future home, currently to provide a home for an elderly friend/widow that we have POA over fits our budget. For the staff's recommendations, or I'm sorry, for the technical reports, the health department states they have no objections. The surveyor made no comment. Staff's recommendation is petitioners have found a used log cabin that they want to purchase and then move to this location. They explained to staff that they care for an elderly family friend and would like to provide a home for her that is close to their own residence. But the family friend does not need a lot of house to maintain. Even though it does not meet the minimum square footage, it is a single family dwelling and would not disrupt the general welfare of the neighbors nor negatively affect property values. The unnecessary hardship created by the 950 square foot requirement is the burden to build a bigger footprint than needed. Not everyone wants or needs a large house, and BZA has the ability to accommodate those requests when appropriate. Therefore, staff recommends approval of the reduced square footage. Gentlemen, discussion amongst the board members?
It's right near their home, and it is an improvement, and I'm for it.
I have a question, Ms. Barker. If the board approved this, could the applicant bring in a camping trailer and make that his home? Okay, he couldn't use it long-term or short-term, is that correct? Could he do that without having his primary residence already built there? If that was the only structure or only object on the property, so to speak? Well,
Kind of avoiding the answer.
yeah. All right.
Yep.
All right. Gentlemen, would you be opposed if I had the applicant come back up? I think I've got a couple questions for him that I didn't get out.
Please do. I see where it's going.
If you don't mind, step back up to the podium. I just want to get clarification that, because when I'm reading the application here, it talks about you representing that you were wanting to move a log home from another piece of property.
That's in Bedford, Indiana. It's down in Bedford.
Okay, but is that your intent, or is your intent to build something
That is our
from
intent.
scratch, or is it?
Yes, that is our intent.
And if that doesn't work out, because you made some reference to.
Then I'll have to come back to you.
Okay, all right.
I
So
mean,
you
I don't-
understand that you can't put a camper or
Yeah, I
a small
understand
mobile
that.
home, something like that
Yeah.
on there, that it needs to be.
Yeah, even though it happens.
Right. It's happened in the past, and we're trying to make sure those things don't happen in the future the best that we can. That's
Right.
why I wanted to get you back up here and get your commitment that that's not what you're.
No, that is
doing.
not what we intend.
Not asking about your intentions. What I'm asking you, is that what you will do?
No, that is not what we
Thank
would
you.
do. We would not put a camper over there.
Thank you. Other questions from the board members? No. Thank you very much.
You're welcome, sir.
All right, other discussion? Open for a motion then.
I would move to approve public hearing D 2110 based on the finding of facts and the petitioner's testimony.
Cite the specifics on that.
Okay, the development standard variance worksheet. I move we approve the request made by John Kathy Lee, petition D 2110 for a development standard variance to reduce the minimum living area of a single-family dwelling to 697 square feet. Property is located at 3493 West State Road 142 in Gregg Township. Motion is made for the following stated finding of facts. Number one, the approval will not be injurious to the public health, safety, morals, and general welfare of the community because that is the reason stated in the petitioner's finding of facts. Two, the use and value of the area adjacent to the property, including the variance, will not be affected in a substantially adverse manner because, and that's the reason stated in the petitioner's finding of facts. Number three, the strict application of the terms of the zoning ordinance will not result in practical difficulties for the use of the property because, and the reason stated in the petitioner's finding of facts.
I think on, Bill, on number three, if we're approving this, the strict application of the terms of the zoning ordinance will result in practical difficulties.
My mistake.
No, that's okay.
Thank you.
You want to amend your motion?
I'll move it to number 3, being a strict application of the terms of the zoning ordinance will result in practical difficulties for the use of the property because, A, the reason stated in the petitioner's finding of facts.
Thank you. I have a motion to approve with no conditions. Do I have a second? I have a second from Mr. McGrath. All in favor, please raise your right hand. Say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you, Mr. Lee. It's approved. 5 minutes? All right. Folks, we're going to take a 5-minute break here. We'll be back in 5 minutes.
It'll be a nice place if they get it moved, won't it? I think you get tired of a cabin.
Looks kind of dark out already.
You know, it's going to be on a weekend basis. That'd be a different story, but I think he's going to get tired.
Fairgrounds or not?
You see the pictures of it? Decorate inside.
Can we help you? Take mine, I don't want it.
I am.
I gotta get up and walk a minute.
But you ought to give some to him because he needs to be a little sweeter.
You. Tell him, Bill. Just call me vinegar. I don't know where I keep this. He's usually here. Cut these down. We can't have this many things that we just spend the night here. And Bill always wants to go out drinking afterwards. So Bill always wants to go out drinking afterwards.
Only if you pay.
Thanks. Where's the one that was here?
I just took it,
Oh, okay.
just in case.
It's got dark awful quick, didn't it?
Yeah. Well, it's that time of year.
But it's only 7 o'clock, or 7:30, I guess. Where's your farm out in Eminence?
We live 3.5 miles north of Eminence, downtown. You know,
So are you past the school and then that old mansion where they used to have horses there?
yeah, you go past that, first road is McClure Road. East, we live, the farm's on East McClure. There was a pig farm down there. That was where the pig farm was. Used to be a pig farm there, Crone.
Yeah.
Raised hogs, yeah.
Don't you remember, because we looked at that other house down from that, sat up on the hill. It was a center hall, no, it wasn't, it was a brick house, big brick house.
Oh, it was on, next to 142, close to it?
Yeah.
Yeah. But I have a younger brother that lives on Crone Road, and then the family farm, my older brother lives on McClure Road. I actually live in Morrisville, but I go out to farm out every day. Got their shelling corn today, though.
Yeah.
10:05, and I detailed it to Morrisville, get it cleaned up. Because you never know what kind of traffic you're gonna run into at Martinsville.
Through Martinsville?
Huh?
You come through Martinsville?
I come down Blue Bluff.
Do you?
Yeah.
Oh, not straight across through Monrovia and all that?
No, I'm in Mooresville. I come right straight down 67 or Blue Bluff and come down by the old power plant.
Yeah, Martinsville's like New York.
Well, I was here the other day and to get across the intersection down there at the bypass. Luckily, it just opened up enough for me to get across. Come across the bridge. And going in, I didn't think it was going to get off 67 to get across the bridge. This is crazy.
And they ain't driving slow.
It's crazy.
is F.
11 o'clock.
I thought it might be 10 or 9.
Aye.
And then 10, and that's it,
Everybody back?
Most of these variances and stuff like that will flow pretty.
You guys all set?
Yes. Where Keith is.
Not allowed to cover it anymore because it doesn't interest enough people.
Said that, the paper?
Paper, those idiots, it's paper.
Yes, communists.
All right, our next item on the agenda this evening is public hearing U-21-09. David and Charlene Jewell are requesting a use variance to allow an accessory dwelling on one parcel. The property is located at 6275 State Road 44 in Green Township and is zoned for ag. For this application, I have one person signed up. That is Charlene Jewell. I have no one signed up in opposition or as an interested party. Charlene?
That's me. I'm Charlene Jewell, 6275 State Road 44, Martinsville, Green Township. Did you hear me?
We can hear you.
Okay. And I want to build a small cabin in the woods toward the back of the property, which is really more toward the west side, actually, to most people. And my son, who's close to 50, will live there. He is single, and he will be there so that we can stay in our residence since I'm 70 and my husband is 68. And we don't want to leave. We like where we are.
Anything else you'd like to tell us?
Let's see. No, I think that's about it.
Okay, questions from the board members?
How big is that current residence on there right now?
It's a 3-story, actually 2-story with a full basement, 900 square feet times 3, 2,700 square feet.
How long have you lived there?
Since about 1988.
Tell us a little more about what you're proposing to build there.
Well, I have some pictures included. It's a cabin, so it'd be a downstairs with a loft bedroom, so there would be some stairs going up, screened-in porch on one side, storage sort of underneath the roof where it's too short for people to live. Probably constructed of wood. When I say a cabin, I don't mean the round kind of logs like most people think of with cabins. Just a 2-story and a living room, kitchen, bathroom downstairs, and bedroom upstairs.
Are you still doing the animal bedding?
A little. I was taking care of my mom for quite a while, and she passed away this past spring. So I'm hoping to get moving again soon. I'm doing just to close people around me right now.
Any other questions from the board members?
Do you have any intent of using this as a rental or anything like that as far as for profit value of the property, use of the property?
No, my son is, like I said, single, and he's single, he's not married, and he will live there. What happens after I die, I can't tell you. But while I'm around, that's the way it will be.
Let's hope that's a long time.
I'm hoping to.
Any other questions from the board members?
I don't have
I have none.
No, thank you, Ms. Jewell. Thank you. All right, this is an application for variance. In order for us to grant this, we have to agree that the applicant has met 5 findings of facts. The first being that the approval will not be injurious to the public health, safety, morals, and general welfare of the community because, and the applicant writes, this is to be a 1-bedroom dwelling so that my son can be close and help us stay in our home as we age. Excuse me, gentlemen, if you've got excuse me, folks, excuse me, if you've got conversation, we'd ask you to take it outside so we can conduct our meeting. Thank you. The applicant writes, this is to be a 1-bedroom dwelling so that my son can be close and help us stay in our home as we age. Number 2, the use and value of the area adjacent to the property included in the variance will not be affected in a substantially adverse manner because, and the applicant has written, it is in a wooded setting and will increase property value. Number 3, the need for the variance does arise from some condition peculiar to the property involved because, and the applicant writes, it requires a separate dwelling for my son. Number 4, the strict application of the terms of the zoning ordinance will constitute an unnecessary hardship if applied to the property for which the variance is sought because, and the applicant writes, it may require us to sell the property when we are unable to live unassisted. And number 5, the approval does not interfere substantially with the comprehensive plan because, and the applicant writes, this is a residential rural property and not commercial. For the technical reports on this, the health department states they have no objections to the proposed variance. And the surveyor comments that we'll look at draining and erosion at time of permitting. For staff's recommendation, they have written, accessory dwellings are not a permitted use in any district, which means a petitioner must seek a variance to establish additional living quarters. In this case, finding of fact number 4 claims a hardship because the petitioner wants to have a dwelling to allow a family member to live close by in the event they need care and assistance in the future. Staff believes the petitioner has satisfied the findings of fact and is not opposed to the petitioner's use variance to allow an accessory dwelling on the parcel. Open for discussion.
Don't have anything.
It just seems very logical to me. And I was on the board in 2005 when we did this. The bedding deal. I have no objections at all.
I don't have any objections.
Gordon?
I don't think I have any either.
No? Yeah, I'd be in favor of it. I think kind of the same thing that we've done with the other 2 this evening, that we put a condition on it can't be used as rental property, that I would support this as well. Open for a motion.
I would move that we approve U 2109. Based on the finding of facts, the approval, request we approve. Request may be David John Jewell, petition U 2109 for a use variance to allow the accessory dwelling on property located at 6275 State Road 44 in Green Township, Morgan County. The approval will not be injurious to public health, safety, morals, and general welfare of the community because the reason stated in petition is finding of fact. The use and value of the area adjacent to the property, including the variance, will not be affected in a substantially adverse manner because A, the reason finding of facts. The need for the variance does arise from some peculiar condition to the property involved, and that is the reason stated in the petitioner's finding of fact. 4, the strict application of the terms of the zoning ordinance will constitute unnecessary hardship if applied to the property which variance is sought. A, the reason stated in petition finding of facts. Number 5, the approval will not interfere substantially with the comprehensive land use plan adopted by Morgan County because A, the reasons stated in finding of facts. And in the additional motions, the second dwelling will not be used for any other commercial purposes but family.
Thank you. I have a motion to approve with the condition. Do I have a second to that motion? I have a second from Fred. All in favor, please raise your right hand and say aye. Aye. Thank you, Mrs. Jewell. It's approved. Our next item on the agenda this evening is U-21-10. Sandra and Michael Green are requesting a use variance to allow an antique shop to be established in an agriculturally zoned district. The property is located at 1619 Dillman Road in Green Township and is zoned ag. For this application, I have Sandra and Mike Green signed up, as well as Earl Schellenberger in support, no one in opposition. Do not have anyone as a concerned citizen either. Sandra or Michael, who would like to present? Thank you.
My name is Sandra Green, and I live at 1619 Dillman Road in Martinsville. And we are requesting to get a variance to allow us to open a small antique shop, which is going to be mostly online sales. Probably will be open a maximum of 8 to 10 days a month, if that. We're just trying to get, we've been in the antique business for a while, and I've been set up at malls and have done shows, and with our age, we're just going to try to get it in one spot and make it a little easier, not having to move everything in and out.
Is there anything else you'd like to tell us?
Well, we've purchased a portable building. It's 22 by 40, and we finally got everything all approved for that. And there will be no sewage or water or anything like that in it. It's just going to be strictly, and there'll be, I'm sure, minimal traffic. We have, plenty of parking area for cars. We have a driveway there that goes through, and they could pull in both in the front and in the back. So don't expect a lot of traffic. Because as I stated, it'll be mostly online sales.
Any signs going to be placed out there?
I'm sorry?
Any signs going to be placed out?
I have a sign on the front of the building that just says antiques. There's not going to be a big sign out in front or anything like that. The building sits fairly close to the road. And, there's like a sign that says antiques, and that's what's going to be there. We're not going to have anything that's going to be big and gaudy.
Any other questions from the board members?
I got one question. On page 1, it says acreage 23 acres. And then on zoning appeals, it says 13.95 acres.
Well, when we purchased the property in 1967, we had 43 acres. And we have given our daughter and son-in-law some of our property. And we also have another extra parcel that is not included on this. It's ours, but it's a separate parcel that we pay separate taxes on, that I think is almost 4 acres. And I probably was mistaken when I wrote the 23. I didn't actually look it up, and I'm sure that Laura did, but there is another parcel of almost 4 acres, so we've given our son and daughter-in-law property 2 times. Excuse me. When they first got married, I think it was like almost 7 acres that they took, that they put a modular home on, which they've since sold, and now they've built a home, and we've given additional property. So when I put the 23 acres, I thought that's what we probably had, but we probably don't. You know, we probably have more closer to 17.
What were the hours of operation again?
I'm sorry.
The hours of operation?
I would probably be open maybe 2 times a month on Friday and Saturday. And then maybe 2 or 3 times a year, I may have some kind of like a spring open house, a Christmas open house, or something like that. But
Says open
as
8
I
to
stated,
12
it's going to be mostly online sales. And people may come by chance and, you know, if I'm out there. But I'm not going to be open regularly, you know, every day and have regular hours.
Are you going to have assigned hours that you are open?
I'm going to have business cards printed up, and I haven't decided, but it's going to be like either the 2nd and the 4th Friday and Saturday of each.
That's not what, the days we're not asking. I'm talking about the hours that you
The
are
hours,
open.
I'll probably be like 10 to 4, the days that I'm open.
Laura, is the applicant given a copy of your staff's recommendations? Okay. Have you seen those, ma'am? What the Plan Commission office recommended to us as a board for your business?
When did you do that? Last week? I see that, okay.
Okay. All right. Any other questions for the applicant, gentlemen?
I guess my question would be, could you live with what Mrs. Parker said that she feels that we ought to request of you as far as, you know, there was a limited number of open business days, more than 12, limit signage, public parking located behind the building, prohibit outdoor displays of merchandise. This would be only for you and it could not be transferred or sold with the property.
Right.
And the building may not be occupied till the final inspection has been finished. Could you live with that?
I'm sorry?
Could you live with that if it was put into this motion?
Sure.
As to the rules? Thank you.
Any other questions from the board?
I don't have any more.
Do you have a copy of that back at your seat? Or do you have it with you now?
I'm looking at this, and I'm not sure what you're...
Bring up what you got. I want to
Okay.
show you on there where it is. Let me see if here, Bill, I've got it here. That section I just circled, I'm going to call up the next person that signed up to speak. Okay, so you're going to step back to your seat. But my suggestion to you while you're sitting there is that you read that, and I'm going to call you back up again when I get the other 2 people that signed up to speak to see if you agree with Mr. Rumball's question that you can abide by all those if the board was to approve this. Everything that I circled. Thank you. Mike Green. Earl Snellenberger. Did I pronounce that right? Did I pronounce it correctly?
I'm sorry.
That's okay. We're good.
I'm times.
We're good.
I apologize, my
No,
hearing
you're
is so
fine.
terrible, and if I repeat something that Sandra said, I apologize. I have been neighbors with Michael and Sandra Green for 51 years. One could not find more finer and more considerate neighbors. Over the 51 years that we have been neighbors, my property is directly across the road north of their property. And I've seen them make many, many improvements to their property. All of that has been first class, really enhancing the value of the neighborhood. And I know that this enterprise that they are hoping to get into is going to be first class. They have been, they're experts in their field. They have been selling antiques at various locations for many years. They have a following. They're good, honest business people. And I'm convinced this is going to be a beautiful, small showroom for the things that they are offering at a given time. And, but they have a following that I believe the sales, for the most part, are going to be made on the internet. And then people will come and look at the purchases that they are thinking of making. So I heartily approve of this, and I hope that there will be a positive approval for this variance for their business.
Thank you. Questions from the board?
I have none.
That,
All right.
you're to the north on the left-hand side, correct?
Yes, I'm at 1830 Dillman Road.
Yeah, I think I turned around in your driveway this evening on my way down here when I went
okay.
by to look at it.
All right.
You followed me into town.
Okay.
Okay, yeah, you are right across the road from them. All right. Thank you, sir. All right. Thank you. Sandra Green.
Yes, I've read all of this, and there's nothing there that I could not comply with.
Okay, including no outside display of product?
say
because
no
you've got it
outside-
on the porch now.
That's what I was going to say, that's what I was going to ask. I can't put anything on the porch. I have a swing, and I have, some of the things that are on the porch, if you came by, are not going to remain there. It's just, we're trying to get some things moved in. We moved out of an antique mall, 2 booths, and we're in the process of getting it organized. But I have a swing, and I'm going to have a bench there. But some of the things you saw, I think there's a box and a thing that's got some gourds or something sitting on it, and that will not remain there. That's going inside.
But for right now, we're talking about, as this is written, Mr. Rumball asked you the question, could you live with that if the
Yes.
board were to approve that?
Yes, I could.
Okay. Any other questions from the board? Mr. Rumball, any follow-up questions?
No. Nope.
All right, thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, this is an application for a use variance, and in order for the board to grant this, we have to agree that the applicant meets 5 findings of facts. The first being that the approval will not be injurious to the public health, safety, morals, and general welfare of the community because, and the applicant has written, small business will be well-maintained, very limited as far as traffic. There will be no plumbing to cause erosion or air quality. Number 2, the use and value of the area adjacent to the property included in the variance will not be affected in a substantially adverse manner because the applicant writes will be on homeowners' property, low-volume traffic, where mostly farmland, and petitioner will not allow anything to affect value. Number 3, the need for the variance does arise from some condition peculiar to the property involved because, and the applicant writes, it is now farmland, want to open small antique shop. Most business will be online, open to public 8 to 12 days per month. Number 4, the strict application of the terms of the zoning ordinance will constitute an unnecessary hardship if applied to the property for which the variance is sought because, and the applicant writes, is totally on petitioner's property and has incurred expenses to open business and is no longer farmed. New building will enhance property value. And lastly, the approval does not interfere substantially with the adopted comprehensive plan because, and the applicant writes, there has been improvement on the property, i.e. building, instead of vacant land. For the technical reports, the surveyor states all of Morgan County stormwater ordinances must be met prior to construction. The health department states they have no objections to the proposed use variance. For staff's recommendation, they write, given its location and nature of the business, this use should not affect the general welfare, finding number 1, or property values, finding number 2 of local neighborhood. But with regard to finding of fact number 3, there is no condition peculiar to the property driving the need for the variance except that it's zoned ag, which does not allow a retail antique business. Likewise, the petitioner has not adequately demonstrated an unnecessary hardship if not allowed to open the business in this location. That is the justification needed to satisfy finding number 4. The courts have held that economic loss or gain is not an allowable justification for an unnecessary hardship. And in this case, the petitioner always has the option of opening a business in a location that is properly zoned. However, if the request is approved, the board may want to safeguard the rural character of the area by including the following conditions. Limit the number of open business days to no more than 12 days per month. Limit signage to 1 non-illuminated sign of no more than 10 square feet. All public parking must be located behind the building and parked vehicles cannot block the driveway. Prohibit outdoor displays of merchandise. The use variance is only approved for this petitioner and shall not transfer to future property owners or tenants. And lastly, the building may not be occupied until final inspection has been passed. Gentlemen, we're open for discussion on this. Thoughts, comments?
Well, my thoughts are that this does not hurt that area, since I don't live too far from there. I think if they would agree to what our staff has put into the request, it would be perfectly logical.
Other thoughts or comments, gentlemen?
Nope. He said enough for all of us.
I think they should be allowed to put some stuff on their porch to attract attention or close to the steps.
I would agree with that. I think if it gets a motion made to approve it and there's a condition in there to restrict outside, I would say that they would be allowed to put product on the porch, but not outside anywhere other than the porch. So not a foot in the yard, not 2 feet in the yard, the porch.
I would call a porch, not outside. I would call that part of the dwelling.
And the existing porch and the building approved as it exists today and solely for the use as an antique establishment. So down the road, they couldn't bring in and start selling lawnmowers or vape pens or anything else like that. It's going to be an antique business, and I would be more likely to support this if a motion's made to approve it, if that's added into the conditions as well, that it be operated only as an antique store, and that the buildings, its size and the porch size not be increased beyond what it is today. That's my thought on it. Yeah, I remember we did one out on 252, just back this side of,
Painted Hills.
yeah.
Yep.
Aware of, we've not had any complaints or
I don't even know if they're still open.
with that.
I don't
Any
recall, I don't see any action, I don't see the sign up anymore.
I've seen the people, I've seen them 2 or 3 times, but I don't know if their store is still open.
And that we've got
Let me
the
ask you-
closest neighbor in support of it
Yeah.
helps
Good
me
question.
support it as well.
Yeah, I agree there. Can I ask you a question? You're talking about putting stuff on the porch. Are you talking about leaving it on 24-hour day or just during the hours of operation?
When they're open.
Well, I drove by there today, and there was stuff on the porch. And I didn't think that took away from anything from the character of the neighborhood. Matter of fact, I noticed that several properties driving to and from there had old farm implements sitting out as displays on their property and that type of thing, and it didn't,
I can get in a lot of
you know, I think that's pretty conducive with the neighborhood, so to speak, and the rural character of that part of the county and many others.
Do we put a restriction saying that they're limited to what they can put on that porch?
You don't know what they
I think we can do anything we want, but I think we'd be putting an unfair burden on the Plan Commission office to try and enforce something like that.
That's what I was getting after. We can put a lot of things on there, but,
Right.
the enforcement
And it
of it.
could be there one day and you make a complaint and it's gone the next day, so.
So, and my thought would be either we allow it on the porch, or we say, no, we're gonna stick to follow what staff has recommended and nothing be displayed outside, including on the porch.
I've got a swing on my porch, and I don't find it to be offensive to anybody.
Yeah, something on the porch to attract attention. Not a shrunken head.
And you would not bring a swing in the house, you would leave it out there. It doesn't, in my opinion, hurt a thing. I would say that what was requested of, when we do the 6th, we put the 7th thing to be used only as an antique store. But I don't see any harm in, several people on this board have, you may call it old antique machinery, I call it something I use.
I've been to your farm, Bill, that's a stretch on some of your equipment out there, young man.
Don't push that too far.
Member that does too.
So, Bill, not to cut you off, but are you going to make a motion that we approve this with staff's recommendations? What are we doing on the outdoor display of merchandise, since that was a point of discussion?
On the porch. Outdoor displays of merchandise, except on porch.
Okay.
Yeah, I would move to approve U 21-10. Request made with Sandra and Michael Green, petition U 2110 for a use variance for an antique shop to be established in an ag district. The property is located at 1619 Dillman Road in Green Township. This motion is made for the following reasons. The approval will not be injurious to health, general, moral safety, welfare of the community. A, reason stated in finding the facts. The use and value of the area adjacent to the property, including a variance, will not be affected in a substantially adverse manner because A, the reason stated in petitioner's finding of facts. Number 3, the use for this variance does arise from some condition peculiar to the property involved. A, reason stated in petitioner's finding of facts. Number 4, the strict application of the terms of the ordinance will constitute an unnecessary hardship if applied to the property which the variance is sought because A, reason stated in petition finding the facts. This approval will not interfere substantially with the comprehensive land use plan adopted for Morgan County A. And my motion also includes the following conditions. There you go, I've got even notes here. We will limit the number of open business days to no more than 12 days a month. Limit signage to one non-illuminated sign of no more than 10 square feet. All public parking must be located behind the building and parking vehicles cannot block the driveway. Prohibit outdoor displays of merchandise except on the porch.
Existing porch.
The use variance is only approved for this petition and shall not be future property owners or tenants. This building may not be occupied until final inspection is passed. And it should only be used for an antique store use. It is not transferable to any other owners.
Did you get all that? Thank you. Thank you.
Uh,
Do I have a,
Wait, before we
sorry.
ask for a second, please.
yeah, thank you, I suggested that.
And the building size will not be increased, including the porch.
Add that to the existing building.
It's already there.
880 square feet.
Yeah.
I have a motion to approve with conditions. Do I have a second to that motion?
Again.
All right. Thank you. All in favor, please raise your right hand and say aye. Aye. It is approved with conditions. Thank you, folks. Okay. All right.
You couldn't, our farm, I think it was selling antiques too. We farm with them.
That's right. Bill and I got to be careful when we do these things. We're all that way.
I joined the antique machinery.
Yeah.
You're welcome.
Good luck.
Yeah. Yeah. I know. Myself did antiques.
Well, good.
3, actually.
I know, I'm trying to keep it pretty quiet for you.
Oh, you're fine. I can tolerate that.
Oh, he'll set her off.
Okay.
Let's see. Is it over?
I don't know too much about all this. I don't know. You get into the state and national.
Yeah.
Mr. Peden, I have the next 2 items on the agenda. Public hearing D-21-11 and public hearing D-2112 from the same applicant, pardon me, but for 2 different requests. Is it possible and/or prudent to hear both these at the same time, or do we have to call them one at a time?
The order in which you establish your agenda and carry on your proceedings is within your discretion. It seems practical to do so by consent.
Thank you.
All I ask is you have 2 separate motions. So you can hear it together, but 2
Yeah.
Thank you. Gentlemen, discussion, or would anyone not be in favor of hearing both these at the same time?
No.
Thank you. All right. Our next item is on the agenda. Our public hearing D-21-11, John Duckworth, doing business as All Ducked Up LLC, is requesting a development standard variance to reduce The required setback between a residential dwelling and a confined feeding operation. The property is located at 0 West Grounds Road in Jefferson Township and is zoned ag. Other hearing that we're having right now is D-21-12, John Duckworth, doing business as All Ducked Up, LLC is requesting a development standard variance to eliminate the 6-foot fence requirement around the confined feeding barns. The property is located at 0 West Grounds Road in Jefferson Township and is zoned ag. And for this application, I have, looks like 7 folks signed up for each application, and I'll call off down through each one. If I repeat your name and call you up twice, forgive me, but I'm going to go through each one. So I've got Morgan Duckworth signed up first, but I'm assuming that you are John since you're standing at the podium, and you're the applicant, so we're going to go ahead and let you speak again. Start off with your name and address, and then tell us what it is that you want to do and why we should approve your request for a variance, please.
Okay. My name is John Duckworth. I live at 1950 Peyton Road.
John, you got to speak up.
Sorry.
Can't hear that well.
How's that?
There you
Better.
go.
My name is John Duckworth. I live at 1950 Peyton Road, Martinsville. My brother and I, Isaac Duckworth, are planning to start to raise chickens for egg production. We are going to take care of the chickens and collect the eggs every day for sale. We farm with our parents right now, and we plan, we just feel that going into this type of business would be a good move for our overall family farm. And it'll help my brother and I be more self-sustained going into the future. It'll also let us utilize the very rich and organic chicken manure that will come from the barns as well to help on our row crop operation. So we are here because we're seeking a variance from a residential setback from 1,000 feet to 869. The residence that is impacted by this, I have a letter and I have copies for everybody stating that they are in support of what we're trying to do. So I can pass those out if you want me to. We're also seeking a variance to have the fence taken out of the plans because we don't feel the need that a fence is necessary to keep chickens that are already in a barn confined. We're also worried about the visual aspect of a 6-foot mesh wire fence. We don't feel like that would look very good. So we request approval of variances contingent upon IDEM approval and the Morgan County stormwater approval. And I can pass these letters out. The residential owner was going to come in support tonight, but he was unable to make it. He works super early, has to get up, and it was just too late for him. But I do have a signed letter from him that he is in support of this variance.
Have you gotten a copy of that letter from the neighbor? No? If you do have a copy of it? I believe he has copies. Oh, okay. But you haven't seen it yet? Okay. All right. So normally, that's not something we accept, but it's up to the board members. If they want to accept it, great. If not, then
I think it'd be handy to see it.
Sure, we'll take copies of it. Do you have enough to give all of us one and one to Mr. Peden and Ms. Parker? Thank you. Go ahead. Was there more, Mr. Duckworth, that you wanted to state?
No, I appreciate your guys' thought and input on all of this. That is all I have to say.
Thank you. Questions from the board members?
Jen, I'm not worried about keeping chickens in, I'm worried about keeping people out. Why not think about that?
Keeping people out,
Keeping people out.
yeah.
There's an awful lot of people that don't like confined feeding operations. Would not a
Definitely.
fence help that situation? Not necessarily a 6-foot fence, but
We, as far as getting into the barn, there's only one way in and one way out. The doors are always locked. We will have a keypad to unlock the door to get in, and then as soon as it closes, it locks again. I think it would be very hard for someone to come in. As far as the fence, yes, I agree. How the field is laid out, there is a ditch along the road, and I would like to put some sort of gate maybe over the culvert that we'll have going into the entrance of the barn property at some point, so that we can just deter people from coming in there. As far as that, there's ditches on two sides and trees on a far side. I don't see it very likely that someone is going to drive up to it. If they do, doors are always locked. And so I don't think we'll have a problem. We would like to put in a security camera system so that we'll be notified on our phones if someone does pull in and we're not there.
not opposed to you not, but I think there's people that might want to do other things.
Yeah.
Is it visible from the street?
Yes. Yeah, it's gonna sit about 200 feet away from the road. And so, yes, it'll be visible.
How big a building is this gonna be?
It's like, it's approximately 600 feet long and 60, 70 feet wide. There'll also be a processing building that will be separate from where the chickens live. That's where all the eggs get collected to, and they all get stored there. So, but like I said, there is no way to get into the chicken building without going through the processing building, and you have to go through doors that are one way, and they lock as soon as they are closed.
Gonna have, go ahead.
How wide did you say it was? The width?
I don't know.
Up. We only hear from whoever's standing at the podium.
I believe it's where the chickens live in the barn. I think that barn is 66 feet wide.
60 feet.
And about 500 feet long with.
Are there gonna be signs out saying what's going on?
I would like to put a sign.
And can the public pull in there and buy eggs and stuff, or?
No, sir. We're strictly packing them and selling them to an integrator who will then process them, clean them, and then ship them to grocery stores. So, yep.
You do none of the sanitation work to the egg product there?
Correct. We only collect the eggs, pack them, put them on a pallet. A semi-truck comes and gets them and takes them and processes them.
Is this set up on an automatic waste disposal unit where they automatically clean the bins and stuff to it?
Yeah,
And the
mostly.
storage under liquefied or?
No, it's all dry manure, and the chicken manure drops below them onto a belt, and that belt is conveyed out of the part where the chickens live into a enclosed manure storage room that is connected to that barn. So it is conveyed out of the barn where the chickens live.
How many chickens are you planning on housing in here?
There's going to be 105,000 to start out with in the barn. It's a two-tier barn. There'll be 50,000.
What kind of sides in this building?
Metal siding, sheet metal siding.
Sheet metal, okay.
It'll look like a pole barn from the outside.
Thank you.
But you'll have some type of exhaust fans on the outside of the building blowing into it. So
Yep.
once the chicken manure goes into this separate building, then what happens with it?
That manure is just stored until spring or fall when there's no crops in the field, and we can load it out onto a spreader and spread it right there on our own fields that are close by.
Okay. On the satellite picture we have of this, get back to that page here. Anybody got it pulled up? Or this one that?
I'm
How
sorry.
about this one right here, guys, gentlemen, can you see, everybody got that one, or? So, Mr. Hale, James Hale, that you have the letter from, can you show us where his residence is on that?
So this cutout in, to make the field not square, he lives on the other side of a tree line, just right here on O'Neill Road.
Okay.
Where
Who
the
lives in
slight
that?
jog is,
What's that?
right where that slight jog is in the road?
Yeah, close to the road, close to O'Neill Road.
House down, if you drop your finger down an inch and a half, who's that neighbor?
Wendell and Jenny Brawley.
All right. And notice was sent to them
Yes.
of this, and you've not had conversation with them then?
Just on a personal level, they approve of it. Nothing official I have for you from them.
Okay, all right. I don't think they're,
Have you talked with the county surveyor about drainage and all that other stuff?
We have not made it that far on this location yet. This was step one, and then hopefully with your guys' approval, we'll start on that this fall.
Have you done this before?
We have not done this before. We had another location on Duckworth Road back last winter, and it got taken out of consideration from DNR. They determined that it was in a floodway. So we found this new location, or we have this new location.
Other than the location, I mean, do you have experience with this?
No, we don't have any experience. My brother and I have spent quite a bit of time in some other chicken barns down in southern Indiana, working with them and learning how to do it. We feel more comfortable every time we go down there.
Let me give you a little tip. See that guy sitting over there with a smirk on his face? He's the egg king from New Jersey.
Okay.
Have you had any dealings with Food and Drug Administration on this since you're going to be commercialized? Because they get quite stingy.
No, I haven't. I'm not sure.
Acquaintance that has this thing. They raise, for Tyson's. They raise almost 500,000 chickens a year in the egg process of it. And it's very strenuous.
We
when
have
they
not.
get involved in it.
We have not yet. We're still an agricultural business and building, and hopefully we can stay away from them as long as possible.
When you start selling the eggs, you're going to be involved with them.
Yeah. We, our integrator, there's a representative farm that we're growing the eggs for. And so like I said before, we just take care of the chickens and collect the eggs, and then we send them on, and they take it from there. And we just get paid for the eggs that come out of the barn. So hopefully we can, on our side, we can stay out of that kind of stuff and let them deal with that.
So would the public be pulling in to buy eggs from you guys?
No. Like I said, we just pack them. The integrator brings one of their own trucks. We load the trucks, and then they get sent off to get cleaned and cartoned up. So no, there won't be any public.
How often will a semi-truck come down your road?
I'm sorry?
How often will a semi-truck come down the road to collect this?
Once a week.
And how, for the eggs to be collected once a week? And how often are you going to be feeding your feed, or are you going to be feeding feed that the integrator supplies you?
Yeah, there'll be a feed truck feed truck that comes about once a week as well to fill up 2 bins, which are also in one of these pictures. But chickens themselves get fed about 3 times a day. But then as those bins get emptied, a feed truck will come fill them back
Do
up.
you have all your permits from the state?
No. We are seeking this variance. I don't know where my paper went. We have not gotten the IDEM permits. Like I said, we're seeking this approval contingent on
To realize that if we gave it to you, you'd still have to jump through all the other hoops.
Yes, I'm very aware. We pay a nice lady to get all that done for us.
How long do one of these chickens live?
84 weeks they'll be in our barn. They come in at week 15 or 16 of their life, and they'll live 84, 85 more weeks in our barn.
And where do they go?
They get terminated and disposed of.
That's why I don't like chicken noodle soup.
These chickens are strictly for egg production, so they don't really have a use after their peak production time.
Fertilizer.
Any other questions from the board members?
Where are you getting your statistics at that you're saying, that you've never done this before? And, you know, the chickens are gonna live this long, they're gonna produce this much amount of waste and stuff like that. Where are you getting your estimates from?
We've learned everything from Riverview Farms, and that is who we're gonna grow, take care of the chickens and collect the eggs for. They have, like I said, they have taught us, and we've gone to some of their other subcontracted barns to learn how they do it. And so that's where we've learned. And we started the talking process about a year ago now. So we've had almost 12 months of just gathering information and going to different barns last winter and this summer. We've learned a lot. We've not experienced it on our own yet, obviously, but we're still just as excited about it as we were 12 months ago. It just takes a lot of time, a lot of hoops to jump through.
Or, since you're not doing the final process of the eggs, but you're farming them out that other, are you gonna be in competition with Halite, Rose Acres, and,
Yes,
Morgan Fields?
Yes, the company that we're growing for Riverview Farms, they are competitors of Purdue and Farbest, and I can't remember the other ones.
Rose Acres?
Rose Acres. In the past, we have talked to other integrators, and we really feel very comfortable working with Riverview. They're a little on the smaller side as far as talking about with Purdue and Tyson, but they are a big operation, and we have felt comfortable with them since day one and want to continue a long relationship with them.
Do you have adequate supply of water around that area to supply the chickens with all the water you're gonna need every day?
Yeah, the plan right now is to have 2 wells, one to use and one solely for a backup. If that plan doesn't work, some other farms that we've been to visit, they physically have water storage in their barn to supply like a day's worth of water. So that water is definitely more important than feed.
How many people are you gonna hire to run this?
We're not gonna hire anybody. It's just my brother and I that's gonna be taking care of it. With the technology in today's time and the automation of the feed belts and the manure belts, it's really a 2-person operation for about 6 hours a day. Plus, we have lots of good family help. Hopefully, they'll sneak in there and give us a break once.
You can't see them, but they're shaking their heads no behind you.
I tried.
Any other questions, gentlemen?
Is that something where school kids would take a tour through?
I would love to do that, to get into the ag education side of things. With the restrictions on disease control and stuff like that, no one is allowed in the barn unless you're completely sanitized. And it's best if just the two people go in and out of the barn every day and not more than the same people.
Any other questions?
Single phase or three-phase power?
There is three-phase right there on Grounds Road, so we're very
Okay.
excited about that.
Any other
I don't
questions?
have anything now. I don't have any other questions.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Morgan Duckworth. Thank you. Isaac Duckworth. Do you want to speak, Isaac? Come on up to the podium. This is your opportunity to speak now.
Again, my name is Isaac Duckworth. I live at 1545 Old State Road 67. It's around Brown's Crossing, if you're familiar with the area. So, starting off, good evening. I'd just like to add a few things, a few questions that you guys had asked, and John answered them very well, but I'd just like to add a few things. So I'll run through those real quick. First off, this is a family-oriented business. We're not a big corporation like you'd see, and we're not, honestly, even big farmers. We're comfortable for our size, but this chicken barn is going to make us more. It's going to make us better self-sustained. Everything, the prices are getting higher on everything. Eggs are getting higher, wood's getting higher, nails getting higher, fertilizer is getting higher. So this chicken barn is really going to help us as a farm be able to provide good, safe, clean fertilizer that even the liberals are going to be happy with. This is the best stuff you can get. It
Thank you. Stay right there. Questions?
Yeah. How do you keep out like coyotes and foxes and stuff like that? Is special fencing or something?
No, so this barn is completely self-contained. Okay, even the manure storage building, everything is contained. The only way you can get into this barn because of biohazard securities is through that one door. A coyote couldn't get in there if he tried. Chicken can't see out, coyote can't see in. So it's a pole barn.
Other questions? Thank you. John Duckworth? Oh, you already got John. Sorry about that. William? Hold on just a second. We'll stop you right there. Either you want to get up to the mic and speak or you don't. Well, I'll pass. Lauren? Who's Lauren? Okay. Couldn't see you over the podium there. Ryan Schnell? Is it Schnell? Or is it Shell? Is it Schnell? Okay. All right.
Good evening. My name is Ryan Schnell. My address is 4320 South Schnell Road in Birdseye, Indiana. I represent Riverview Farms, who we have been working with the Duckworth family for close to a year now on this project. Just to clarify a few things, Riverview owns the building looks like a big machine shed. So the chickens, like Ike said, they can't see out. You can't see them. We control 100% of the lighting in the barn. These barns are state-of-the-art. I had a person call today wanting to come see our barn that's getting ready to get chickens in a couple weeks just because these are some pretty nice facilities, okay? There's a lot of money invested in this on our end as well as theirs. Other than that, if you guys have any other questions, like I said, Riverview owns the chickens. So we have a huge interest in this.
What kind of litter do you use in it? What kind of floor litter do you use?
Floor litter, there is no litter.
No litter, okay.
No, not in a cage-free house.
I have a question. Do your other chicken farmers, you said you had 3 different buildings in Washington, do they have fences around their buildings?
No, we don't have any fences around any of our facilities anywhere. And I can't tell you a chicken house that does. I'm from southern Indiana where, you know, we raise a lot of chickens for the whole country in a little bitty area. And I cannot honestly tell you one that has a fence around it. Because all of these facilities are locked up all the time. So. And the majority of them are video monitored.
I might have missed it earlier if somebody mentioned it, but if John and Isaac do this and do it well, how many eggs a week are going to be coming out of their operation?
We're hoping that if the chickens are laying 90-something%, you're talking about 90-something thousand eggs a day, kind of thing. Okay. They stay in a big cooler unit. It's just a big cool room about the size of this until our trucks come pick them up and haul them to Washington.
Okay, all right. Other questions, gentlemen? No, thank you. Carrie Simpkins.
Do you have any problems with EPA and anything, you know, you have these chickens around here in Washington. My acquaintances are all down south that raise these chickens. Mostly in the state of Georgia. They have a lot of EPA people being the proximity between Chattanooga and Atlanta, Georgia, pouncing on them all the time. Do you have this problem around here? Because you have that many chickens, you're going to have fumes.
We're fortunate in the state of Indiana that Indiana is very pro-agriculture. So, yeah, like, I think you're talking like activist groups or something, or?
No.
Or what do you
We're talking about the Environmental Protection Agency for the
Federal government.
federal government.
The federal government, IDEM monitors us, the growers, monitors Riverview. Riverview has their own farms as well. You know, we have a good relationship with them. We don't have problems with them. You play by their rules, you do what's right, and there's no issue. So. I hope I answered your question.
That's close enough.
Any other questions?
I have none.
Thank you. Carrie Simpkins?
Hi, my name is Carrie Simpkins, and I live at 812 Western Avenue. I'm actually from Connersville, Indiana, and it's late. I'm sure everybody's tired. But for Ryan, when you were mentioning EPA, the reason he was struggling to answer is because I do that for them. EPA doesn't have much of a presence
Thank you. Any questions, gentlemen?
Oh, I have one question I just thought about. How many, and it might not be directed at you, but for you guys, well, how many people are going to be working there, and any jobs going to be created?
I said two. I said two.
They're not going to employ anybody outside the family. Sheldon and Isaac are going to be working in it, and so it's a family affair.
Any other questions? No? Thank you very much. All right, let me make sure since I've got two applications here, I want to make sure I gave everybody a chance to talk. Is David Litton here? Gage Litzman, Keith Litzman, or William Hodge? Nope. All right. Morgan declined, is that correct? Morgan's outside with the baby? All right. Isaac, we heard from. Lauren declined. John, we heard from. There we go. Bill, you declined, correct? Thank you. Carrie, we just heard from, and Ryan, we heard from a few minutes ago. So we've heard from everybody that signed up. I don't think I missed anybody on it. Looks like it's all that's left in the room. So we're hearing two things here this evening, and let me get I was going to say ducks in a row, but chickens in a row, since that's what we're talking about here. The first is a development standard variance, and in order for us to grant this, we have to agree that the applicant has met 3 findings of fact. So if it's acceptable with the board, I'll read these finding of facts, these technical reports, then go into the other findings of facts and technical reports associated with it. So this is for docket number D-21-11. The first being that the approval will not be injurious to the public health, safety, morals, and general welfare of the community because, and the applicant writes, the proposal is for an agricultural use and predominant land use and zoning of the area is also agricultural. The operation is highly regulated at the state and federal levels. A small reduction in setback will not be injurious to the community. Number 2, the use and value of the area adjacent to the property included in the variance will not be affected in a substantially adverse manner because, and the applicant has written, the proposal is for an agricultural use and the property is currently an agricultural use. The operation is highly regulated at state and federal levels. A small reduction in setback will not impact the use and value of the adjacent property. Number 3, the strict application of the terms of the zoning ordinance will constitute an unnecessary hardship if applied to the property for which a variance is sought because, and the applicant has written, the proposed agricultural building improvements have state setback regulations, i.e. 100 feet from property line, logistical requirements, and county requirements. When these constraints are coupled with the shape of the parcel, there isn't an adequate room to locate the buildings. This request will allow for use of the property with the smallest reduction in residential setback possible. Again, for this application, for technical reports, the health department states they have no objection to the proposed development standard variance, and note, if plumbing is installed in the building, the ISOH Commercial Division will need to be contacted for septic system requirements. And the surveyor made no he does make a comment. The confined feeding operation must meet all Morgan County stormwater ordinances prior to construction. And he's noted that the erosion control and drainage is inadequate currently for that. For the staff report, a recommendation on this. They have written the highlighted language from the zoning ordinances included with the staff report along with the other standards applicable to a confined feeding operation. The specific item pertaining to this request is as follows. Item P9, minimum setback from residential dwelling, 1,000 feet. The nearest dwelling is on O'Neill Road and is approximately 869 feet from the closest chicken layer barn. The second chicken layer barn is approximately 988 feet from the house. And they go on to say, the additional standards are in place to protect adjacent property owners from the potential impacts that certain uses can have on neighbors, but not every use on the list creates an equal level of impact. The petitioner spent considerable time positioning the barns on the property to meet state standards as well as county standards. Following detailed conversations with the petitioner and conducting independent research on chicken layer barns, staff is not opposed to the petitioner's request to reduce the setback from the nearest residential dwelling. This small reduction in the setback will not negatively impact the neighboring properties. Quite frankly, if the barns were on the same location, but the parcel happened to be less than 10 acres, it would only have to meet a 660-foot setback from the nearest dwelling. Staff believes the petitioner has successfully satisfied the findings of fact and therefore recommends approval of the request. Mr. Peden, are we better to go ahead and call for discussion and then a vote on this and then do the same thing with the next one? Okay, let's do that. Gentlemen, discussion on the setback issue of this and the applicant's request to give him an exception for that.
I don't find any problem if it's 9 acres, they would only have to be 660 feet, as it was pointed out. Now they have to be 1,000 with the bigger area. The person living in that area does not disapprove of this. It just seems logical that we would approve this.
Other discussion? No?
I don't see anything.
I agree with Bill. If they had less land, they wouldn't be required to have as much setback.
Yeah.
We have a neighbor from a letter that we can't verify is from the neighbor, and not to say anything to you for presenting that to us, but we put a lot more credence in it if the neighbor's standing here in front of us. That being said, I feel it's more than adequate setback for it myself.
I don't see a problem with the setback on it.
In that case, open for a motion unless there's more discussion. No? Open for a motion.
I move we approve docket number D-21-11 for the standard variance to reduce the minimum setback in the chicken laying farm at the nearest residential dwelling of 869 and 988 feet, respectively. The property was located at 0 West Grounds Road in Jefferson Township, Morgan County, Indiana. The motion is the reason stated the following. The approval will not be injurious to the health, public safety, and morals of the general welfare of the community because of the finding of the facts and reasons stated within the staff report. The use and the value of the area adjacent to the property, including the variance, will not be affected substantially adverse manner because of the finding of the facts in the staff has checked. The strict application of the terms of the zoning ordinance will result in particular difficulties in use of the property, because of the finding of the facts that was stated in the staff report, what it said there.
Thank you. I have a motion to approve with no conditions. Do I have a second to that?
I'll second it.
Second from Mr. Rumble. All in favor, please raise your right hand and say aye. Aye. All right, so that part of it's approved. The second application that we on now, that we heard testimony on as well prior to this, is D-21-12. This is an application for a development standard variance. And again, on this one, we have to agree that the applicant meets 3 findings of fact. The first being that the approval will not be injurious to the public health, safety, morals, and general welfare of the community because the applicant has written, the proposal is for an agricultural use, and the predominant land use and zoning of the area is also agricultural. All structures will be enclosed with no public access, therefore, waiving the fence requirement will not be injurious to the community. Number two, the use and value of the area adjacent to the property included in the variance will not be affected in a substantially adverse manner because, and the applicant writes, the proposal is for an agricultural use and the property is currently an agricultural use. The operation is highly regulated at the state and federal levels, and the lack of a 6-foot chain link fence will not adversely impact the use or value of adjacent properties. And lastly, the strict application of the terms of the zoning ordinance will constitute an unnecessary hardship if applied to the property for which the variance is sought because, and the applicant has written, this request will allow for use of the property with the smallest reduction in residential setback possible. The installation of a fence, as described in the ordinance, would substantially impede access to the operation. It is not required by any state regulation and would detract from the agricultural character of the property. For technical reports on this application, let's see here. The Health Department states they have no objection to the proposed development standard variance. And then again, note if plumbing is installed in the building. IS, is it O or D or? Oh, okay. ISDH, that makes sense. Commercial division will need to be contacted for septic system requirements. The surveyor notes that the confined feeding operation must meet all of Morgan County's stormwater ordinances prior to construction. Staff's recommendation on this. Is as follows. The highlighted language from the zoning ordinance is included with the staff report along with the other standards applicable to a confined feeding operation. The specific item pertaining to this request is as follows. Item F2, fence or screening, 6-foot wire mesh. As stated in the petitioner's previous request, the additional standards are in place to protect adjacent property owners from the potential impacts that certain uses can have on neighbors. Because this operation is completely confined indoors, there seems to be no obvious need or reason for the fence. Staff's online research cannot find photos of similar operations that have a 6-foot fence. Furthermore, the state does not require any fencing for its permitting. Staff agrees with the petitioner's position that the requirement for the 6-foot chain link fence will take away from the agricultural character of the area and instead create a more industrial look and feel which is far less desirable for the area. Staff believes the petitioner has successfully satisfied the finding of fact and therefore recommends approval of the request to eliminate the 6-foot fence requirement. Open for discussion.
I'm really not too worried when Isaac leaves the door open that I'll be attacked by a chicken. So my further questions on a 6-foot fence, I don't feel that it's necessary.
Gentlemen, any other discussion or comments?
No, I don't have anything.
If they've ever seen, anybody's ever seen some of these chicken operations, I'm fortunate enough to be able to see one, but as I stated, not in this state. But these chickens never see daylight from the time they get in there until they come out. They're just sitting in there producing, basically what you say. I think the security measures is usually set up on these buildings. Speaking on their behalf of what they said, the security measures eliminate a lot of the problems over the 6-foot requirement. And I think I see no problem with the elimination of the 6-foot fence. If this is built up equal to the operations that I've seen, and it sounds like they are, they shouldn't have a problem with with that.
Thank you. Other discussion or comments, gentlemen?
I don't see that they need a fence. I've been around hog operations, it's been confinement. Didn't need no fence for them either.
Jerry, any comments? No? I agree, and thank you, Laura and staff, for well-researched, well-written recommendations on that, and on both these. Just a job well done on that. The confined chicken farms is one of the reasons why I went to college. I worked in one as a kid in Brookville, and I didn't want to continue doing that, so I went to college to do something else. I'm glad they've made a lot of improvements with technology, and it's a lot more of it automated and that type of thing, but I have no issue whatsoever with this. Quite frankly, you guys welcome I welcome your business into the county, as I'm sure the rest of the board and the staff does. And applaud you for taking a chance on something like this. Sounds like you've done a tremendous amount of research, and I have full confidence that you'll run a great operation there, and I would fully support it as well.
Ask a question.
Please.
Lady back here that, I can't remember your name, I apologize, from Connorsville. How many of these chicken processing farms do you find in Fayette County?
Why don't you come on up to the microphone for us here, please, if you would. What's your name, please? Thank you.
Simpkins, okay. I'm sorry, I apologize, I didn't remember your name.
Getting old.
That's what I thought.
Actually, there are only 2 confined feeding operations total in Fayette County.
Yep.
So that's where I was born and raised, but that's not where my business is located. I mean, most of my business is.
Well, we speak that. John was from Franklin County. I was raised up in Union County. Right on the edge of Union County and the Ohio line. So that's why I'm questioning, that you run into those over there. Now, there is some up there.
Once you're in it, and manure is manure is manure. I joke all the time, I'm on the wrong end of the pig, so I can't usually speak to production schedules, but,
Okay, thank you.
Any other discussion, gentlemen? Open for a motion?
I'd move to approve request by John Duckworth, All Ducked Up LLC, and petition D-21-12 for a development standard to eliminate the 6-foot-high chain link fence requirement for chicken layer barns. Property located at O.W. Grounds Road in Jefferson Township, Morgan County. The motion made for the reasons followed and stated finding the facts. This approval will not be injurious to the health, safety, moral, and general welfare of the community because the reasons stated in the petition is finding the facts. Number 2, the use and value of the area adjacent to the property, including the variance, will not be affected in a substantially adverse manner because the reasons stated in the petition is finding the facts. And 3, the strict application of the terms of the ordinance will result in a practical difficulties for the use of the property because the reasons stated in the petition is finding the facts.
Thank you. I have a motion to approve. Do I have a second? Second. I have a second from Mr. Roberts. All in favor, please raise your right hand and say aye.
Aye.
Aye. It's approved. Congratulations. Good luck.
Yep.
What was that comment from the audience?
What do we do with all of this?
When you're on.
We give it back to Amber, and she gets it shredded.
Including a letter too.
Mr. Peden, do we have a
Karen.
BZA's attorney this evening? Ms. Parker, do we have a plan director's report this evening? We have items on the agenda. Thank you, thank you. All right, gentlemen, any other business to be conducted this evening?
Next meeting?
Motion we close.
Or said we do have items on the agenda, October 25th.
Okay.
Can I open before we get into anything else here, can I have a motion to adjourn?
We did.
And, all right, Jerry seconds. All in favor, please raise your right hand, say aye. Aye. Okay, Bill, go ahead.
Those chickens ought to see some sun this morning. They ought to see some sun, them poor chickens. They say windows in the roof of the thing?
I mean, do I throw them?